The cops were halfway up our driveway when my wife, still in pajama pants, lifted her badge with the kind of quiet authority that made grown men rethink their choices. One of the officers hesitated mid-step, his partner's hand hovering uncertainly near his belt, and then there was Janet. The HOA Karen's jaw fell open so wide you'd think she'd swallowed a bug. "I'm going to need you to explain why you're trespassing on federal property," Dana said coolly, her voice like ice slicing through the morning air. Janet stumbled a step backward, her pastel cardigan fluttering like a surrender flag. Her voice dropped to a tremble. Oh no, my name's Brian Teller. I'm a mechanical engineer who lives for quiet weekends, slow-smoked BBQ, and over-engineered gadgets no one actually needs. 3 years ago, Dana and I bought what we thought was our forever home on Cypress Grove Lane. Big yard. No HOA. Close enough to civilization for groceries, but far enough from neighbor drama. It was perfect. Or at least, that's what we believed when we signed the papers. Then came Janet Dreibach. A one-woman storm in khakis and cardigans. She ran the Cypress Grove HOA like a tyrant in a floral scarf. The catch? Our property wasn't part of the HOA. It hadn't been for 2 decades, thanks to the original owner who fought tooth and nail to keep it independent. The welcome packet she left us said otherwise. Property records were ironclad. Our deed was crystal clear. None of it mattered to Janet. She saw us as a threat to her community vision. At first, her antics were just dinner table jokes. She showed up with a welcome packet no one asked for, complete with mandatory lawn rules, a list of approved mailbox colors, and, no joke, a VHS tape of a community orientation video from 1998. Dana and I dug out an old VCR from a garage sale just to watch it. It was the kind of production that sits somewhere between a high school media class project and a hostage tape. But her friendly warnings were the beginning. Little notes on our door, written in purple gel pen on self-printed HOA letterhead. Apparently our mailbox wasn't approved HOA beige. Our fire pit counted as forward. Aggression. And my wife's unmarked government vehicle was suspicious activity. Dana laughed so hard at that. Once she nearly snorted coffee. We ignored it all politely. I'd wave when she marched down the street with her clipboard. Dana would smile sweetly and shut the door mid-speech whenever Janet started one of her rehearsed community standard rants. We figured she'd get bored eventually. She didn't. That's when Janet turned up the heat. She began sliding fake HOA fines under our door. Official-looking invoices with made-up penalties. $50 for excessive. Dandelions. $75 for non-approved bird. Feeders. $200 for aggressively. Non-neutral paint colors, which apparently referred to our hunter green front door, a color that had been there since long before we moved. In our shredder lived by the front door after that. Then came the voicemails. Every Saturday at 7 a.m. sharp, Janet's voice would rattle through the machine, warning us of emergency HOA meetings we were required to attend. She listed imaginary fines stacking up daily and threatened legal action. She claimed our bird feeders were encouraging a potential avian uprising and said our garden gnomes were cultish and scaring young families. I tried being civil once. I caught her on one of her morning power walks. Politely explained we weren't part of the HOA, showed her the property records, and even offered to grab coffee to settle this like adults. She responded by snapping a photo of my license plate and mumbling about vehicle standard violations. And then came the day everything blew up. I'd taken a week off work to build a 12x10 backyard shed. Simple structure. All permits pulled, fully up to code, even painted it a neutral color. Dana was already daydreaming about organizing her power tools. I was halfway through framing when Janet appeared at the gate, her face an impressive shade of plum. She started yelling about unauthorized housing development and calling in the big guns. I figured she meant her cousin who'd gotten an online law degree. I was wrong. The police rolled up on a quiet Tuesday morning, 2 patrol cars in formation. Janet strutted next to them like she was leading a SWAT operation. Binder of bylaws in one hand, venti frappuccino in the other. Her chest puffed out with pure suburban self-importance. From the backyard, I could hear her dramatizing the situation, talking about flagrant disregard for community standards and a dangerous construction project. I should have seen the storm coming. I walked around to the front yard, brushing sawdust off my hands, fully prepared to show the officers the neatly laminated building permits sitting in my back pocket. But before I could say a word, Dana stepped out. Pajama pants, an old FBI Academy t-shirt, bed hair that said I've had worse mornings than this. She took one look at the scene, 2 patrol cars, a trembling Karen with a frappuccino, and me looking way too confused for a Tuesday, and sighed. A long, practiced sigh. Then she reached for her badge. Special Agent Dana Teller. Department of Homeland Security, she announced with quiet authority that hit the air like a gavel strike. Everything froze. The officers stopped mid-step. Janet's hand shook so badly that the whipped cream on her drink threatened to fly off. Even the neighbors who'd been pretending to water their plants while enjoying the show suddenly found urgent reasons to be indoors. Dana kept that same steady tone. This is federal property. The shed you're so concerned about is a secure storage facility, and your presence is interfering with a classified project. She wasn't technically lying. It was a secure structure, and my attempts to organize the garage were classified as impossible by anyone who'd ever seen the chaos in there. The younger cop shifted on his feet, glancing at his partner. We might need to, double-check some jurisdictional stuff, he mumbled. The senior officer nodded, already backing away toward the patrol car. We're going to go make some calls, he said, which in cop language clearly meant we want no part of this. Janet was rooted to the spot, her mouth opening and closing like a malfunctioning goldfish. She tried to stammer something about sovereign neighborhood rights, which isn't even remotely real, but Dana was already a step ahead. She reached into the folder she'd brought out from inside, pulled out a crisp legal document, and handed it to Janet with a smile so polite it was terrifying. This, Dana explained patiently, is a cease and desist letter from our legal department. Impersonating a regulatory authority and harassing federal employees on their property comes with interesting liability issues. I'd recommend you read it carefully. The letter was 100% real, drafted by Dana's agency's legal team after she casually mentioned our ongoing HOA nightmare during a lunch break. Her colleagues thought it was hilarious and jumped at the chance to help. Turns out government lawyers love putting overreaching HOA presidents in their place. Janet's face cycled through colors like a broken traffic light, starting at red, passing through purple, and finally settling on a pale, clammy gray. Her hands shook as she scanned the legal language. Federal statute violation. Potential criminal charges. Word spread through the neighborhood faster than a California wildfire. By that evening, Janet's phone was blowing up. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, which we knew because of the parade of cars headed to her house. Every driver wore the same oh no expression. Our neighbor Tom, HOA treasurer and certified Janet hater, filled us in later. The meeting was brutal. The board's actual lawyer, a real one this time, not Janet's cousin, explained in excruciating detail how her actions exposed the HOA to serious legal and financial risks. False reports, harassment, impersonating government officials, all lawsuit landmines. The vote was unanimous. Janet was suspended from her position. Though, as Tom put it, the word temporary is doing some heavy lifting here. She was required to write formal apologies to us, the police department, and every single homeowner she'd falsely fined. The HOA's insurance company was especially focused on that last part. But Dana wasn't done. At the next community event, a summer barbecue at the park, she delivered a presentation titled Know Your Boundaries, HOA versus Federal Sovereignty. She made it mandatory for board members, but everyone was invited. She even handed out mini pocket constitutions and bookmarks with key property law statutes. Janet, seated in the back near the potato salad, looked like she wanted to disappear. She was forced to stand up and publicly apologize for what the board called gross overreach of authority. Reading from a stiff, prepared statement, she muttered her deep regret in a voice so faint it could barely compete with the sound of the lemonade. Cooler. But the real pain came afterward. The HOA's insurance. Company slapped her with the $5,000, deductible for the legal cleanup. Her false police report earned her a misdemeanor charge and $800 in fines. And the final blow? The board voted, again, unanimously, to permanently remove her from her position. Tom told us she actually cried when they took away her gavel, clutching it like a life preserver as security escorted her out. For the first time since we'd moved in, Cypress Grove Lane was quiet, and it was glorious.